Hey everybody, this is going to be the video tutorial that's going to show you how to make the Jagged Water Bottle Holder. And to make this water bottle holder, this is a yarn that I used. It's a List Cotton Club, gold cotton. And for the amount of yarn I used out of this skein was already opened and used a small amount for something else, and I was still able to make a full water bottle holder. And I still have all this left over, so you should have enough to make a couple. I also used a 4mm hook. I recommend using 4mm hook or 4.5 or 3.5mm hook. Just stay on the smaller side because it makes the texture look so much better, and also it won't be as big of a stretch. This kind of yarn that I have says that it's cotton and acrylic. It's 55% cotton, 45% acrylic, which is perfect because it has the stretchiness of the acrylic, and also acrylic does great for when it gets wet, and cotton as well. So this is a great mix for anything you want to use for washcloths or something like the water bottle that's gonna, condensate. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and use some thicker yarn so you can see the stitches a lot better, and I'm going to be using a 5mm hook or size H hook, but this is just going to be for tutorial purposes only. Okay, to start, you want to chain 3, and then you'll slip stitch in this beginning chain to form a ring. For row 1, you want to chain 3, and then in the ring itself here you want to put 11, and I work over the tail, by the way, because you can create kind of a pulley system at the end to tighten your hole if you need to. But you want to put 11 double crochets worked into this center ring. So go ahead and do your 11, and we'll be right back. Okay, once you have your 11 double crochets done, counting the chain 2 at the beginning, you should have a total of 12 stitches. Make sure that you count them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I have 12. So I want to slip stitch in the top of my beginning chain 3. And that will end round 1. So for round 2, you want to chain 2. And in that same stitch here where you slip stitched and end your row, you want to put a double crochet into that same stitch. And now you want to put 2 double crochets worked in each stitch around. You're going to be doubling your stitches this round. So go ahead and put 2 double crochets in each stitch all the way around, and I will see you when you get to the end. Okay, at the end of round 2, you should have 24 stitches. Be sure that you count them. And when you do, you want to slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain 2. For round 3, you want to chain 2, which is going to count as your very first double crochet here. Move to your next stitch and put 2 double crochets into that next stitch. And then in the next following stitch, you want to put 1 double crochet. And that'll be your repeat for the row. So the next stitch you'll put 2 double crochets, and then the next stitch after that you'll only put 1. You'll continue that pattern of putting 2 double crochets, then 1 double crochet, following each stitch all the way around. And I'll see you when you get to the end. Okay, I'm coming up to the end of my round, and you should end with 2 double crochets worked in that very last stitch. If not, then you know that you probably went wrong somewhere around here. You want a total of 36 stitches, so make sure you count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36. So when you have your 36 stitches at the end of round 3, you want to slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain 2 to end your round. For round 4, you want to chain 2, and you're going to double crochet in the next stitch. See, this is where we slip stitch, begin a row around, and this is our very first, our next stitch I should say. So the next stitch you'll put 1, and then you'll want to put 1 in all the stitches around. So last round you had 36 double crochets, so you will have 36 double crochets at the end of round 4 as well. So go ahead and put 1 double crochet in all your 36 stitches, and I'll see you in a moment. So the end of round 4, you want to go ahead and give yourself an extra stitch. So these are my last 2 stitches. This is 35 and 36 because we did 36 last round and we put 1 stitch in each stitch around. So this will be 35. Then the very last stitch will be 36. And just to make sure we have enough stitches to do our jagged stitch for the next round, you want to go ahead and put another double crochet in that very last stitch of the round on the end of round 4, which will give you 37 stitches. Once you have those 37 stitches, slip stitch in the beginning stitch, and that will end round 4. For round 5, we're going to be doing our very first round of jagged stitches. Jagged stitch takes 2 stitches to complete. So go ahead and chain 2, and we're going to be using these first 2 double crochets here. You want to yarn over and do like you're making a front post double crochet. You'll grab that very first post up, you'll yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through only 2 of the loops. You'll leave that last loop on your hook, and without yarning over, you just want to insert your hook in that very next stitch, pull up a loop, and now you'll work these last 3 double crochets just like you would, last 3 loops like a regular double crochet. So you'll yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2, and then very important, you want to chain 1. So you'll move over to the next 2 stitches. Remember, these 2 are part of the jagged stitch now. So you'll move in to the next 2 stitches here, and you'll yarn over, pick up the post of the very first stitch, pull up a loop. These first 3 sets of loops, you'll yarn over, only pull through 2. And then without yarning over, you'll just insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then you'll work these 3 just like you would a regular double crochet, and then chain 1. Then to make sure, just to give you a little tip, as you can see, you'll be using every other double crochet this row, and it'll be the post of every other double crochet this row, so every other one should be pushed forward a little bit. So you know when you come up to one that's pushed forward a little bit and then has a regular double crochet, you know that's the whole thing there is a jagged stitch. So you know you want to grab every other post. So grab up the post of the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, insert your hook into the very next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. Then yarn over, go into the next stitch, the post of the next stitch, pull it up, yarn over, pull through 2, and then insert your hook right into the very next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. Do not forget that chain 1, very, very important. So again, you'll yarn over, pick up the post of the next stitch, only pull through 2, insert your hook in the next stitch without yarning over first, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. And you will continue to do this for the full round, and you should end perfectly where your very last 2 stitches of your round here will be a jagged stitch, and then you can slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain 2. Okay, I just finished my last jagged stitch of the round, and I'm up here to my beginning chain 2. You may have to pull it to see it, but this is the chain 2. Find the top and slip stitch to end round 5. So for round 6, you want to chain 2, and now we're going to be using the back loop only, so just this back loop, not the leaving this front loop right here alone. So you have two on every single one, looks like a little heart. So instead of using this front loop, you'll only be using this back loop to do the first part of the stitch. You'll want to do a double crochet in that back loop only. And then the very next one, you'll be using the big old chain one space here. And you want to continue to do this for the round. So you got back loop only, and then in the chain one space. Double crochet in that back loop only, and then the chain one space. And you'll continue to do this for all of round 6, and I will see you at the end to show you how to begin round 7. So I ended with putting a double crochet in my chain one space. Brings me back up to my beginning chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch in that beginning chain 2 to end round 6. Now I believe the repeat is now, 5 and 6. So you want to back up, and we're going to be repeating round 5, which is our jagged stitch row. So you'll be alternating, having a double crochet row, and then you'll be using that double crochet to make your jagged stitch. So it basically takes 2 stitches and 2 rows to make the jagged stitch. So you want to do a chain of 2 to begin, and then you'll be grabbing up the post of that very first double crochet to start your first part of the jagged stitch. So you'll pull through 2 and then insert your hook into the next stitch. Then you'll pull through 2, chain 1. And you'll be continuing that, sorry if it got all blurry here. You'll be continuing that for the row again, going to your next post. You'll do your second part of the jagged stitch in the next stitch. Again, as you can see, this stitch is being used. So you'll go into your next stitch, grab up the post, and it'll be like a double crochet, but you only work through the first 2, leaving the last on the hook. Insert your hook in the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then just finish your double crochet and chain 1. And the trick to make sure that you're working the first part of your jagged crochet stitch is you can see that there's hopefully you can see this. See how there's a stitch that's back a little bit, and then there's the full one, because this one was worked in the back loop only, and this one was worked in the chain 1 space. So when you're beginning your first part of your jagged stitch, you know you'll be starting the first part of it on one that was worked in a back loop only. So it'll be back just slightly. And then the next part will be worked on the double crochet that was worked in the chain 1 space, and you can fully see it forward, and you'll go into the stitch of that one, pull up a loop. Then you'll finish your jagged stitch. Also, you can see how they align. See, from one jagged stitch row to the next, the front part of it should line up with the front part that you pull up your post. So they should line up. So continue that all the way around. So go ahead and finish this round, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, I come to the end of my round, did my last jagged stitch, chain 1, find the top, the beginning, chain 2, and slip stitch. So you have an option here. When you slip stitch, you're essentially creating a chain 1. So you don't have to chain 1 after the very last jagged crochet stitch. You could just do the jagged crochet stitch instead of chaining 1 and moving on. You could just slip stitch in the ending, only for this last stitch. But I always went ahead and did my chain 1 and then slip stitched. But it's up to you. If you find you're having too big of a hole here and you don't like it, then no need to chain 1 after the very last jagged crochet stitch. Just end your round with slip stitching on the beginning chain 2, and then that'll create your chain 1 at the end. So go ahead and chain 2 because that's how you always begin your round. And we're going to do a repeat of row 6. So again, after a jagged stitch row, the very first double crochet of your row will be worked in the back loop only, and then your double crochet will be worked in the chain 1 space. Then again, double crochet in the back loop only, and then double crochet in that chain 1 space. And you will continue to do this for the entirety of your round, and then you will repeat a jagged stitch round. So continue to repeat this until I continued to repeat it until I had 11 total completed rows. Like I told you, the jagged stitch takes up 2 rows essentially. The jagged stitch row itself, and then of course the double crochet row that you do before it. So each one of these jagged rows completed like this is 2 rows. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of a thing. So this is how I counted. So each one of these is, you know, a row of jagged stitches, and I had 11 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rounds of jagged stitches completed. If you want the actual number of the rows that I did a total, including the beginning rounds, I did a total of 25 rounds. So that's counting each one of these as 2 rounds. But it's easier obviously when it's all said and done because you just count completed rows, and if you have 11, then you know that you're good to go. And that's just what I chose for mine because I wanted to be able to hold big bottles and it not be over, because it's going to stretch over time. So whatever, if it fits it perfectly now, it's probably too big, depending on the size of bottle that you're making yours for, because over time it stretches. Not to mention that the weight of the bottle will also make it stretch, but you can't go by that at the beginning because in time it will stretch more out naturally. So I always make that mistake. So I'm just throwing that out to warn you. So go ahead and do that, and I'll go ahead and finish. And then I'll finish my jagged row, and then I'll show you how to begin your strap just on this little piece here. I'm coming to the end of my round here on row, the repeat of the row 6, and I forgot I wanted to point out on the very last one, there's the ending chain 1 and then the slip stitch. You make sure that you put a double crochet there, then slip stitch. You're beginning chain 2 to end the round. Then I'm just going to start my last jagged stitch round, which is the repeat of row 5. So I'll just complete this, and then I will show you how to do the strap. And the strap I did using the jagged stitch as well, but I don't know how good it looks. So you could just do a simple 6 double crochets if you want. So let me just finish this round and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I just finished my last jagged stitch of the round, and I'm going to slip stitch in the ending chain 2 to end my round. Now when you're ready to begin the straps here, I wanted to go ahead and do the straps with a little texture as well, put a little jagged stitch on there. I don't know if you can notice. I mean, obviously if it was just plain double crochets it would look a lot different. It does add texture. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So to begin, you're going to just start right from where you are. So you'll chain 2, and then now you'll be going in for these first 6. It doesn't matter. You can just go under both loops and then in the chain 1 space, and then under both loops, and then chain 1 space, 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting the chain space is 5. So I'm just going to go into the very next. Somehow I got should be even, but it's not. Try this again. Under both loops, chain 1 space. Under both loop. Ooh, I know what I did. I forgot to chain 1 here. My bad. So just gonna go under both loops, and then in that space. So okay, so I have a total of 6, including the chain 2 at the beginning. So once you have your 6, you want to chain 2 and turn. And now you want to put a double crochet starting in the very next stitch. So you'll have 5 double crochets in a row. And this will just help you be able to stay on the correct side later on. Make sure you get that double crochet in the top of the chain 2. So with the beginning chain 2 here, you should still have 6 stitches. So now we're ready to chain 2, and we're going to start doing our jagged crochet stitch. So using the post of the very next stitch, we'll grab that up, do the first part of your jagged stitch, go into the very next stitch, pull up a loop, and complete your jagged stitch. Don't forget to chain 1. Then you go into grab up the post of the next to do your jagged stitch using the next 2 stitches. Don't forget to chain 1, and then you'll double crochet in that ending chain 2. So you should be getting 2 jagged stitches per one. And the reason why I wanted to do it at the end of the row here, because it makes it to where when you're picking up the bottle, you'll have one part of the handle here, one part of the handle here, and then you won't have a seam running down here or here because it's going to be down the strap. So it makes more sense to just do it right at the end of the row and start your strap. So after a jagged stitch row, you'll chain 2, and then again on working back and forth in rows like this. I'm gonna get a little closer here. Plus it's overcast today, so I'm losing some of my light here. So you'll be doing on the front loop only if you want, though it doesn't look like it's such a big texture difference on the strap. But usually when you work jagged stitch in rows, you'll be using the front loop only. The front loop only to do the first part of your double crochet, and then you'll go under both loops for the next. So because it's easier just to grab up that front post. So however you want to do it, just make sure you have 5 double crochets worked in the next stitches in your beginning chain. So you'll have 6 stitches. Then when you do, chain 2 and turn, and then you'll be doing your jagged stitch when you have the right side all facing you. So you'll grab up the post of the very first double crochet to start your jagged stitch. And you'll get those 2 jagged stitches in there, and then double crochet in the very, and you gotta repeat those rows 3 and 4 until I stopped when I had a total of 49 rows, and I wanted it to be just slightly shorter than my daughter needed it, because I know in the future it will stretch even more. So 46, 48, and then the 49th row was our first double crochet row that we did here. And that 49 just ensures that we're going to be on the correct side, because when it gets long enough, you'll want to connect it to the other side. And when it gets long enough, you just fold it like this. Just close it to it, and just try to do your best to center your stitches. Remember, you're working with 6 stitches, so you want to make sure you have, 6 stitches, these 2, these 2, these 2, and line those up. And if you want, you can place a marker on either side of these just to ensure that these are the 6. You should make it because of that 49th row where you'll end perfectly, where you can crochet single crochet attach, because that's how I like to sew it. Before you start sewing, you'll chain 1. It'll give you a lot more leeway here and then you'll go through one, go put your hook through, and then the chain one will allow you to be able to go in through this one as well, so that you can pull the loop through both of them. And then you'll just complete your single crochet. And then you'll go to the next stitch, put it through this, then put it through the strap. Remember, you're doing it with 6 stitches here. Then you'll pull up the loop and then single crochet. That single crochet really makes it strong. It ain't coming loose. So again, through the holder and then through the strap, there should be a total of 6 single crochets. And when you've got it done, chain 1, cut your tail a little longer so that you can actually hide it through. So you won't have a tail, you know, showing up if you cut it too short. Cut it long, use a tapestry needle, hide your stitch really well. Hide your tail really well. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please don't forget to like and share. It helps me so much. Also, I have a newsletter now if you haven't signed up for it yet. I'm always updating my older patterns, and to get the most out of my channel, I really recommend that you sign up for the newsletter. Also, I'm very active on Facebook, so you can check out my Facebook business page there, or my groups on Facebook. I have 2 of them. One is more for selling, and one is more for like just hang out, family kind of gathering place. So you can check those both out. The links are in the description. And also, I have a Patreon page that I've created 3 tiers now for, so you can get in there and help how much ever that you want. There's different bonuses depending on which tier that you're at. So take a look, read through it, see which one works for you. I really would appreciate any help that you can give me, and the connection that we can make there is really awesome. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching.